Good evening. My name is Jusiowlee Nimley, and this is episode number 2. I'll be talking about objective number 4, combining it with the learning on assessment. So, objective number 4 says create, deconstruct, and classify clear learning targets in ways that promotes quality assessments that can be shared with diverse students. Looking at the readings and the videos is cover assessments, what they are, types, and how to use it, and what makes a good assessment. So, the practice of having quality assessment creates a good connection between instructions. So, creating pretty much means when learning targets are clear, teachers can quickly determine whether students are meeting expectations or becoming confused. So, clear learning targets can tell you if students are confused or they're meeting the expectations. So, effective instruction has clear learning targets and quality assessment. Therefore, learning targets communicates what students are expected to know and be able to do. So, two things what assessment does is it guides both teachers and assessment practice. Deconstructing learning targets. So, that's pretty much breaking down the standards and into manageable and measurable skills. And it also makes that assessment align. Well, it makes assessment align with instructional goals. And making sure that it's accurate and measurable for students. So, clear learning targets also support a pers- purposeful use of diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment. Tying in the reading and the videos that we were expected to watch, talks about the three main assessments. They are diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments. So, with clear learning targets, creating assessment from one of those three will make it successful because your learning target is clear. So let's look at what are diagnostic assessment. I personally use diagnostic assessment a lot in my classroom. Right now, Charlotte Mecklenburg have this thing where this program where they teach it in the beginning of the school year to so it can make us a better teacher, informed teacher, that we understand our students, we take time to get to know them, we are not quick to punish them, as far as like writing them up. And that program is called Capturing Kids' Heart. And the reason why I say I use diagnostic assessment first, because when I try to incorporate capturing kids' heart within my classroom, I start with good things that they have done for the weekend, or if we had a break, what did they do? What are some good things? And I'll go around asking anyone if they want to share. And then before I dive into my lesson, for example, I'm in a soccer lesson. The reason why we're doing soccer right now is because when spring hits, we'll go outside and play. We already have prior knowledge and we'll go outside and play. But diagnostic assessment happens a lot in my classroom because right before we dive into soccer, after talking about what good things they did, I asked them, do they have prior knowledge playing soccer? Um, have they ever played soccer before? Have they ever been in a soccer camp? What are some skills they are really good at when it comes to soccer? Or what are some soccer skills? So, diagnostic assessment, when learning targets are clear, it identifies students' prior knowledge, strengths, and learning gaps before instruction begins. Okay, I love to use that within my classroom because that lets me know if my students have prior knowledge, and most of the time I can determine if this is going to be an easy lesson. All right, next, formative assessment. Formative assessments are tied to learning targets and are used throughout instructions to monitor student progress. This allowed teachers to adjust instructions by teaching, providing additional support, or modifying teaching strategies to improve learning outcomes. One way I use formative assessment in my classroom, with I use it a lot with partnering up. Like I have stations. Um, for example, my last observation with my principal, I did a lesson called Winter Wonderland where kids were learning how to do um, underhand throw. And one way I did a formative assessment, I had them work into groups like before we dive into playing, I allowed them to work in groups where they practice the skill first, understanding with each other, and then we were able to play it and compete. So formative assessment is pretty much that in between to so teacher can understand if the students are understanding the lesson that they are teaching. Like I said, this allows you to adjust instruction by reaching, providing additional support if they need additional support. While I was doing a group partnering up in my classroom, I realized that one of my adaptive students had a little difficulty hitting the bowling pin on target, and that comes with fine motor skills. And through that, I was able to help guide him. At that time, wasn't looking much at accuracy, but if he fully understand what it looks like to underhand throw. All right, last, summative assessment. Measure how well student has mastered learning targets at the end of the unit. Um, with summative assessment is pretty much the end to to know if the student have mastered everything that you have taught them. One way I use that in my classroom, I do have organized area where students can go get pencil and whatever assessment I have stationed. And they'll go get a pencil, come and sit down on the floor. I have seatings on the floor. I'm a health and PE teacher, and they will sit and my formative assessment pretty much grading them on the skill that was being taught. And for my K-2, I try to use a picture skills for them because they are still learning to read and write. Of course, 3 to 5 are too, but they relate more to picture assessment. And for my grade 3 to 5, I use more words, try to get them to read a little bit more, and for me, with the summative assessment part, it's not really hard because there are a lot of resources out there for health and PE teacher when it comes down to creating summative assessment. So those are how I use those 3 assessments in my classroom. Um, summative is towards the end, and I normally go through a week with the lesson, and then the following week we'll do an assessment to see if they understand, and that last assessment will be summative assessment. In the beginning, we have our diagnostic to see if they understand what they are doing, and then formative throughout. I let them work in groups and test their knowledge to see if they understand in what I'm teaching them. I am responsible for the conclusion part. So to conclude everything that was in the reading and what I have learned, um, excuse me, let's back up. The reflection question that I'm responsible for is which ideas in this chapter did I find most convincing or useful and why? For me, it was always going to be the making sure assessment is fair and not biased. because I have adaptive students in my classroom, and I have to make sure that they understand not just adaptive student. I have different culture as well, um, that probably never play a certain sport. So I have to make sure that I'm giving assessment that are not too challenging for them, that they are able to understand. So that is um, the most convincing and useful tip I have took from this, is in making sure my assessments are clear, and also the youth useful one is diagnostic assessment, to keep using it, because it really gets student engaged and to get them talking to you and open up and let you know what they have done. You should see my PE class. They just get excited to tell me what they have done, what kind of sport, and I will have a couple of them stand up and show me what it looks like. Yes. And then conclusion. So what I concluded when we did meet as a group, um so this is my I understood that, in conclusion, assessment are essential tools for improving instruction and supporting students learning. They are not just for assigning grades. They help teachers understand where students are. It identified learning gaps to make informed teacher decisions. There are three main types of assessment: diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments. And just remember that assessment comes before instruction, and how diagnostic assessment comes before instruction, and um, how to use them properly. That is the conclusion of chapter 2. And just listen to my group members and what they share. Before I close, I would just say that um, this truly have me understand that I have already been doing this, but for me, because I'm a health and PE teacher, I try not to look at grades, because I'm elementary level. We don't do grades, so my assessment, yes, they are learning, but I try to be creative with my assessment. I feel like a lot of kids tend to grabs learning when it's fun and understandable and clear, like clear learning targets. All right, thank you. Once again, I'm Jusiowlee Nimley, and I had objective number 4, and I did my reflection and conclusion. Thank you.